Hello, digital explorers. You ready for some truth bomb? You ever think about how most folks get hacked? It's not like the movies with those mysterious hooded figures typing furiously. So let's start with something relatable. Imagine you're in your favorite coffee shop, browsing the internet. You see an advertisement for a super cool gadget you've been looking for. You might click, boom, your computer is now hacked. So even seemingly harmless ads can be used. A while back, even some major websites fell victim to this advertising campaign or malvertising campaign. So cyber criminals used advertisement networks to spread their virus, to spread their malware. So you might think, okay, I only visit reputable sites. I only visit social media, maybe some YouTube here and there and some company sites. But here's the deal. Around 80 or 90% of those hacks aren't grand, super advanced schemes. They're opportunistic. And guess what's the most common entry point? Your web browser. So that is where ad blockers come in. You can use an ad blocker to block advertisements, but it doesn't just block ads. It also blocks malicious ad campaigns. So if some criminals try to spread a virus through Google Ad Network, Microsoft Ad Network, or others, it blocks those as well. So it doesn't just give you a better ad-free experience, but it also removes a lot of those criminal activity from your computer. So it's less likely that you get hacked. So you can search for an extension called uBlock Origin. If you search for that, you can click on it and then just install it. It doesn't just block advertisements because criminals use ad networks to spread viruses. So add this extension. Now, might take a moment to install. And that's it. You are now protected from that kind of malware, that kind of virus that spreads through advertising networks. And so, next big question, how do most people get hacked? So yes, through the browser, it's very common. But also through downloads and email attachments. Yes, those two. And so, you always want to make sure that whatever you download, it is not a virus, it is not malicious software, and so on. So, internet browsing is really the most dangerous thing or activity you can do because you're connecting to the internet, and the internet is where most of the virus and malicious activity is. So, of course, if you have a computer without internet connection, you remove a lot of threats. It will become much less likely that your computer is hacked if you don't have internet at all. Now, if you do need to use the internet, you can use tools like uBlock Origin to at least block a lot of those opportunistic criminal activity. So it might be just malicious advertising that leads you to a scam site where you pay money for that cool gadget you always wanted, but it turns out it's not real. It could be that has been advertising on some advertisement network, or it could be they are really spreading viruses and malicious software on those ad networks. So you can use uBlock Origin to block those. Now another thing you want to do is to block intercepting. So you don't want, when you're using the airport or public connection, that someone's listening on your network and saying, okay, what websites is this guy visiting? And maybe I can get some passwords and so on. So you want to make sure the network connections are always encrypted. You can do that using a VPN. And on the browser level, you can do that using HTTPS. So if you search for HTTPS, you'll see several options like Smart HTTPS and a few others. So by installing something like Smart HTTPS, it will make sure that your connection is not intercepted on that same network. Now, you also want to use a VPN along with it so that that virtual network blocks all the other users from the network. Because imagine like this, you have a private line to whatever you want to communicate with. Could be your bank, could be company site. Now, you don't want all these strangers on your network, so you want to use a VPN on top of that. And even that might not be enough, because yes, the browser is like the most common way to get hacked. It's not the only way, but it is very common. And so you might want to go a step more advanced, like installing a live CD where nothing is stored on your disk and you can browse the internet without it ever touching your hard disk. But those are more advanced things. So these basic things like installing uBlock Origin, like using HTTPS everywhere, and being generally cautious about what you download. It can really help your cybersecurity basic level. Hey there, Frank here. And today we're talking about something every internet user should know. Ever downloaded the file and thought, is this thing safe? Well, let's take a look at one of the coolest tools out there, VirusTotal. And trust me, it's way simpler than it sounds. So you've got this shiny new file. Maybe it's a picture, a video game you've always been wanting to play, or a software you've been hunting. Or maybe it's just a document from a colleague. But you might wonder, should I trust this? Should I open that on my computer? Enter VirusTotal. It's just a website. So open the internet browser and go to virustotal.com. So it takes a moment to load, and all you have to do is choose that file and drop it into the website. So click choose file. Now, might take a moment to load. Okay, here we go. Choose file, and we upload it, and then it will tell you immediately, is this a malicious file? Is this a bad file or not? So in this case, it does seem to be a bad file. So thank God we didn't open that. And so what does this do? It uses all these virus scanners. So you might know someone if you used antivirus software before, and checks their database if this program we just uploaded is safe or not safe. So in this case, it checked all of these virus scanners if this file is malicious or not. So in this case, it's obviously malicious. And you see lots and lots of files here. It tells you also what kind of threat it is. So it can be a virus, but virus or malicious software can do many things. So it might be someone getting access into your computer, called a Trojan, or it might be a totally different kind of virus. Now, it can give you all of these information even without having those virus scanners installed. So it checks all of their databases. If this software is malicious, you can click on details and get all kind of technical information about it. You can also click on behavior if you at some point to analyze what is this doing. You see in this case it's doing some network communication. It's a Trojan, so it gives remote control to the computer. It also shows you what internet address it might be connecting to, and all kind of other stuff. But the basic thing is like, okay, if this shows in red, and then if 85 companies say this file is a virus, you can take your chances, but it probably is. And so it's really, really a cool tool. You just go to virustotal.com and you can upload any file. Now remember, a malicious file, it doesn't have to be a program. It can also be a picture, an Office document, even a Word file. A Word file can also be malicious. So double clicking on a Word file that you got from work, it might be a Trojan or a virus. And so when you click on it, it might actually start doing bad things in your computer. So it's important to, whatever you download, scan it with virustotal.com. And it will tell you, is that file malicious or not? So now I selected the browser. Of course, it's not malicious. And so that's how it works. So just go to virustotal.com for any file you download and check, is it malicious or not? Today we're diving into Have I Been Pwned? So on the internet, you trust a lot of third parties. A lot of companies are out there, a lot of websites. And sometimes that trust comes back to bite us. So let's decrypt this. So you sign up for a new service. Maybe it's a new social media, a new shiny app, an online store, and so on. But here's the kicker. Every time you give your information to someone new, there's a trust exchange happening. You're trusting them to keep your data safe. But, and this is a big but, can they always be trusted? And this is also the case for large companies. It's like there's a lot of companies also that get hacked. So on this Have I Been Pwned website, you'll see a tab here, who's been pwned, so who's been hacked. And you'll see there's lots and lots of companies that actually get hacked. It isn't just like only some infamous company. You'll see game companies and all kind of different companies that are been hacked. So users put this trust in those companies, but those companies don't manage to keep your data safe. So of course the best option is not internet at all. put your computer in a 50-meter concrete wall and then it will be super secure. But okay, we have to be practical. So we might actually need to use the internet and use some of those services. So, okay, those companies sometimes get hacked. Do we get notified of that? Well, usually we don't, right? So, okay, maybe it's some company you're using and you don't know that that company is hacked, and okay, your data might be for anyone who wants to grab it. They might sell your passwords on the web and so on. And what can you do about it? Well, with this Have I Been Pwned website, you can enter your mail address, and whenever there's a new hack in one of the large companies or even smaller websites and companies, you'll get an email that's saying, hey, your account was hacked, so maybe you want to look into that, maybe you want to change your password. What is the lesson here? We have to be selective about where we share the information, because we might not be the only person that accesses that information. And not all parties are particularly fun, especially third parties when they drop the security. And so they might be interested in selling your data, or maybe taking over your bank account, or maybe doing blackmail or whatever. And so you want to keep as less information about you as possible on third-party websites, because any system on the internet can get hacked. There's no perfect system. There's no 100% security. And so you're trusting websites with all kind of information, but you don't have 100% guarantee that they can keep your data safe. And so what you can do is just limiting the information you expose online. So not sharing as much information, because that might come back to bite you. So stay smart, stay selective, and keep your personal data on lockdown. Don't put all your information on the internet. The less you put on the internet, the less is possible that get leaked. Remember, the internet is the wild, wild west. And there are very bad people on the internet that might want to do malicious things with your information. They might be after your money, bring your personal information, or even more dangerous things. So keep your digital footprint. Don't trust those third parties with all the promises of keeping your data safe. Just keep them in your computer or maybe a USB stick, but don't trust in the internet too much. On the internet, you can connect to many services, many web applications that let you have accounts using a username password. Now, this is all great, but most people pick very bad passwords. And what hackers do? They use password lists, commonly used passwords. They have a list of 1 million passwords or longer that you can just download from the internet and then try one by one all those passwords in an automated way. So you can just go to Google or any search engine and search for 1 million or more passwords. And then, okay, even we have 10 million here. We can open that link. And you'll see we then have a list of 10 million passwords that we can download. So if we click this little button here, it will download 10 million passwords to our computer. It's just a text file with the 10 million most used passwords. And hackers will use those lists to automatically attack accounts. And so if you have some account, if you know your username, can be your email, well, usually your email, they can try one by one from those 1 million or 10 million password lists, or even larger ones, with those commonly used passwords. So if your password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know if you even should watch this course, but make sure to always pick a good password. So not something that is very common, like names, numbers, and so on. You want to pick basically names that, or basically pick passwords that are really long. The longer your passwords, the harder it is to guess it, basically. And that it's not memorable, which is kind of the irony here, because of course you want to remember your passwords. So you would likely pick words from a dictionary, maybe family names or kind of names of things. But when you do that, they are more likely to be found out using those million password lists or dictionary attacks, where they try one by one those words, or maybe a combination of a word and a number, and so on. So you want really random characters in there so that your passwords are not guessed, are not correct. And this can be a bit inconvenient. On one side you have to remember that, and on the other side, if you don't do that, it might be that your password is in one of those million password lists that hackers use to get into your accounts. You might share files on the internet, maybe zip files or other kind of files, thinking, okay, if I put a password, it's gonna be secure, right? And so we have a zip file here, so a collection of files. If we want to extract it, let's say to the desktop, we click extract. You see it requires a password. Now we are not inside Windows here, we are inside one of the hacking systems. And this system is called Kali Linux. I'm gonna open a terminal here. And you'll see we are not inside Windows, we are inside one of the hacking systems. So what we can do is break the password protection of that zip file. So I'm gonna do list the files in the directory. List the files. You'll see we have the zip file here, pictures.zip. Now, you might think, okay, it has a password, so it's secure. No, that's not the case. So we will use a tool called zip2john. And pictures.zip. And okay, we will use this command. This command, we specify the target zip file and then a single file that contains the hash of that zip file. So you can think of it as a code. And you'll see that just took a moment. Then we can try to just run John with that file. So, okay, it already did it without a very complicated password list. You'll see the password of pictures.zip is 123456. So just because your zip file has a password doesn't mean it's secure. You need to pick a really good password. Share things on the internet. Otherwise, a hacker might be able to gain access into your files and whatever they want with them. You'll see in this case it's used this word list. We can actually take a look at it. We copy that. We open a text editor. And you'll see, okay, this is all commonly used passwords. So you see this is not a 10 million password list, but it is a password list of passwords people have often used in the past. And so this automated attack cracks the password of that zip file. Now we are inside Kali Linux. I don't expect you to be installing Kali Linux and do all this kind of hacking, but it's just good to be aware that if you pick up a password, basically it's like having a door without a lock. Any hacker can then open it very easily. Hey, what's going on guys? Frank here, and today we're diving deep into something so many people use without a second thought. We're unraveling the mystery behind that super handy share button on your Windows folders. You know the drill, you got some cat pictures, recipes or whatever that you want to sling over to your family PC. A simple click and bam, job done. Super simple, super quick. But hang on, maybe not so secure. So if you've got this folder nested in your computer, let's say we go to the documents directory. We have some folders. It's very simple. We can share those on the network and copy them immediately to our family PC. And in a family situation, that's great. You think it's just a neat little pipeline between your computer and maybe your son's gaming rig or your family PC. But what if it's not just the two of you in the street? That's where things get a little spicy. You might take your laptop to your company network, to the coffee shop around the corner, and so on. So let's say we share this folder. You probably know this, but you can right click properties. Go to sharing, and then you can share the folder. You'll see in this case it's not shared, but single click and we can share this. We click share. We're going to share this folder on the network. Done. You'll see it makes it available on the network. Now we can set also advanced sharing, share this folder, vacation, permissions. Let's give all the permissions to everyone. Job done. We are now sharing this folder on the network. That was easy, right? This is where things get spicy. Imagine you walk into a coffee shop, a library, an airport, and you just connect to the wireless network there. That network doesn't just have your computer on it. Other customers might be on that network. Might be just regular people, business people, or other people using the internet. But there might also be hackers on there, especially on an airport or in a coffee shop. So what can happen? So here on the left we see your computer. You'll see it looks different than the regular Windows computer. It uses a system called Kali Linux. It's a tool or a playground for hackers. Hackers love this system because it contains many tools for hacking, many tools to pick digital locks. And it might look like this, but not necessarily. They might run, for example, Kali undercover. You'll see I fired up this terminal here. And that will change the appearance to look something like Windows. So it might not be so obvious that they are hacking your computer. If they want, they can have this undercover skin. However, the default skin is this kind of skin. So it really depends on the hacker, but this is a very popular system among hackers. So, okay, you shared those folders on your network with your family, totally forgot about it, and now you're in the airport going on your business. So, what can happen next? This is where things get dangerous. The hacker might start a terminal and check who is running on the network, because it's in a coffee shop, an airport, or any public place. So they might run a command called sudo netdiscover, which searches for other computers on the same network. And this can take a while because it's scanning the entire network. So you'll see these are computer addresses it finds, IP addresses. So every device on the network has a unique IP address, sort of the computer address or internet protocol address. Similar to how every home has a unique home number or an address number. Computers have a IP number. And this can take a while, so the hacker will have some patience to take a coffee break. And when he comes back, he might actually see that the discovered computers on the network that he can potentially attack. So it might take a while. You see a bunch of computers appear here, which one of them is this computer. So what it will do next is scan what system is running on that computer. Is it a Windows computer? Is it a Mac computer, Apple computer? Or maybe some kind of other device. I mean, it could be an Android, an iPhone. There's lots of electronic devices. And so it might determine that by using a tool called nmap. So nmap with the computer address. Press enter. And it immediately tells, okay, this is something Microsoft. So either it's a Windows phone, which doesn't really exist anymore, and more likely, what it probably is a Windows computer. And so what's next? He knows that there is this person in the coffee shop with this computer address that has a Microsoft Windows computer. Next, he might look for shared folders. And to access those shared folders, probably you need username password, right? So most likely you set some passwords and you're using some user on Windows. So the hacker will have two files. So let me minimize this. Two files. You'll see there's no files here. So there might be two files, users.txt and passwords.txt. Now users.txt just contains a list of usernames. So whatever usernames, of course, this list should be huge. So we're going to save it. Now I keep these files small just to teach. Of course, hackers will use really large files with different users and different password lists. And then a list of commonly used passwords. So again, this is a very simple list. So I'm going to save these as pass.txt. Now in the real world, hackers will use a much larger password list and a much larger user list. So, okay, we have two files, one with commonly used usernames and one with commonly used passwords. Going to open the terminal again, see the terminal. Then the hacker will use another tool called MSF console, Metasploit console. So this takes a moment to start. And with that, it will try to attack the shared network drive. So we'll type some commands. Now it might seem a bit complicated typing all those commands. So first we are gonna attack over the network, Windows network sharing, which has this name. Then we set our target. We set the, let me just move this window a little bit. Make it more readable. Okay, so we loaded this target, the network drive. We set the computer address. We set the username file. Set the password file. And then just type run. And then it will do the attack. And so if we scroll up here, you'll see we had one success. So we are able to find a network share. Username password here, PC123456. So now we have the username password for that Windows computer. And we can open a file explorer. You'll remember on this communication is called SMB, so the network file sharing. So we type SMB:/ with the target IP address. It will ask the username password. Now we just cracked those. That's PC and 123456. And here we go. Now we can access the vacation photos of that user. So remember the documents, we shared that folder here, vacation. So this hacker is now inside your computer. He can now browse around and browse around your computer with whatever you shared on your computer. And so you shouldn't be oversharing. I think that's the main point of all this, that if you share things, share folders, it's very easy, one click, and you share a folder on your network. So we can wrap up our adventure. So whenever you share something, even if it's harmless things, take a beat. So I think hackers are always around to get into your computer. Make sure you close every door you open. So don't share folders forever. Immediately unshare them after you copy the files. Because if you don't do that, you might go in a coffee shop, in an airport, and some hacker might be accessing your file. So keep your digital walls high. Make sure those gates are locked tight, and always be in the know. So remember, a moment's pause can save a headache in the world of tech. Alright folks, Frank here. Let's talk Windows 10. You've decided to live on the edge, and you decide to turn off all that firewall, antivirus and all that stuff. So in Windows 10 and modern Windows, you have virus and threat protection. So let's say you really want to live on the edge and you just turn all that off. Like, who needs that on anyway, right? Like, turn off all that firewall, antivirus, all that kind of stuff. Great. So it's like seeing the sign on a roller coaster. Keep your arms inside and think, rules are just suggestions. But let me show you something fun. Ever heard of MSF Venom? No? You're in for a treat. It's like a magician's tool for hackers, creating sneaky tricks to get into your system. With your guards down, MSF Venom is like that magician pulling bunnies out of hats, except instead of bunnies, it's your personal data. And instead of hats, it's your unprotected PC. I'll demonstrate a bit, but here's the gist. Keep those digital doors locked. There's a world of sneaky tricks around there, and while it's fun to watch from a distance, you definitely don't want them in your living room. So you ready to see the magic? Let's dive into MSF Venom. So the hacker now opens a terminal and starts that tool, MSF Venom. What is this tool that we've been talking about? So we type MSF Venom in the terminal, and you'll see it says here, Payload Generator. So what this does is it can generate malicious executables. You'll see an example here, MSF Venom, reverse TCP, and so on, blah, 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 .exe. So it makes programs, it makes executables. It's not limited to Windows executables. With this tool, you can create bad software, virus software for Windows, Linux, Android, and many other systems. So we type this command. We are lazy, so we might just as well copy paste and change a few parameters. Okay, here we go. We need to change one thing here, which is the IP address. Now this is our network address. So we open a new terminal, type this command, IPAS, and that shows our network address, our IP address. I'm gonna paste that in lhost. Might also need to specify the port, even though it doesn't show here. I'm gonna pick this port 4444. A port is like a line, so line 4444. You can pick a different line if you want to, as long as it's the same later on. So we press enter. Now this is gonna take a moment. It's creating that malicious executable. You'll see 354 bytes, payload.exe. If we open the folder, we have this executable here. Now the next step of the hacker is to get that user, that Windows user, to run this program. So it might email it, it might put it on a USB, it might get it to the user in another way. Picture this. You've thrown out caution to the wind, turned off all those pesky antivirus, anti-malware, all that security on Windows. Who needs it, right? You're feeling wild and rebellious, living on the edge. And then there's this alluring file called payload.exe. What is that file? So you might think it's harmless and just click on it. And why not, right? We are a daring user and we just double click. Now this is where things get spicy. So while the user thinks this is just a harmless file, on the other hand, there's a hacker setting up his console ready to throw a digital party on his computer. Why is the wallpaper changed? What are all these icons? Why are my files gone? Why is the mouse moving? Yep, that's the hacker in full control. All thanks to our friend Payload.exe. And you just handed over the kings to the digital kingdom. But hey, let's not just talk about it. Let's do a little show. So, on the hacker computer, we start MSF console, the Metasploit console, the tool hackers often use. Now in here, the hacker needs to type some commands based on the commands we set earlier. So we type use exploit /multi/handler. Then we set the payload. You'll see it is not the same payload as in the MSF console. The payload must be the same. So it was Windows, Meterpreter, reverse TCP. Then what this program does is it connects to our computer on the network. So we need to set our network IP. Remember, in a new terminal, we can type IPAS, and then we have our network address. We need our network address, so that's the command IPAS. So we set it to this. Now remember that communication line you chose, number 4444, when you were creating that MSF Venom payload.exe, we need to set it again. Then we press, the hacker will type run. It's just waiting for a network connection because the victim's computer will connect to the hacker's computer, and then the hacker will have full control over the computer. So here we have the dump user that just clicks on that, double clicks on that app. Unaware, turned off the firewall, turned off antivirus, and the hacker has some console into that computer now. So you can type standard Windows commands like dir, see what's on this computer. You'll see by default we're inside the user's computer on the desktop directory. We can see payload.exe that has just been executed. There's some other files here as well. Now you might move around the file system and see this DOS screen, this like black and white terminal, but there's more you can do. If you type help, you can see all the commands you can run. So we can dump the passwords. We're not going to do that right now, but it's one of the things we can do. We can play audio. So we might play audio onto the victim's computer by using the play command. We can record a microphone, start a webcam chat. We can take a screenshot, share the screen. It means watching what they're doing in real time. You can control the mouse and get some system information and many other things. We can reboot the system. Now, if we do that, we lose the connection and then we're not in the computer anymore. So of course, you don't want to do reboot right after you get access into the victim's computer. What the hacker will do is to try to stay in that computer so that their connection stays into the system and not that they reboot it and your connection is gone and you have to get the user to execute that malicious Payload XA again. And so you can do all kind of things here. Now let's just take a screenshot. We just type screenshot, press enter. And you'll see it saved the screenshot on the hacker's computer. Now we open the file explorer and you'll see, hey, that's the victim's computer. Now if we double click on it, we can see that this indeed is the victim's desktop. And if something was open, so if the user is doing something, let's say they open the Windows Store and they're busy doing their computer stuff, you'll see it looks different. So it takes a screenshot of the live system, of what is happening right now in the system. So we type screenshot. Oh, let's do it again. Okay, now we saved some screenshot. Here we go. So this is what they are doing right now on the computer, right? They have the Microsoft Store open and so on. And we can see that from the hacker's computer. Now, there's more stuff we can do, like that I told you can play sounds, you open the webcam, might do screen share, so watch what you're doing. And there's all kind of things you can do. You now have complete control over the victim's computer. So they might browse around in the file system, so they could go up a directory, list files in the directory, and see, okay, this is all the stuff they have in the user directory. Might go into the documents directory. Maybe you have some interesting documents there. Might go up a directory, maybe the pictures directory. Maybe you have pictures there, and so on. So they have complete control over your computer using this terminal interface. So the main mistake that they did here was running a random program from the internet. They run this Payload.exe, and just by doing that, the hacker has complete access over their system. But there's a second mistake they did, which was turning off the firewall and antivirus. So remember when we search for firewall, Windows firewall, all those stuff we turned off. And so what happens here? Let's say we turn everything back on. Now this might take a moment. We turn on the firewall again. Okay, it's on. And let's say we do the same attack. Now the firewall is running. We type run again. We run payload.exe. And you'll see, okay, we still get access into the computer. So turning the firewall on is not enough to stop this attack. Why? Because firewall blocks incoming connection of going from the outside, so from any computer into the victim's computer. But this kind of attack, when he starts this program, the victim's computer connects to the hacker's computer, so it bypasses the firewall. So what can you do? Well, remember, we also turn off the antivirus. So let's turn that back on. Virus and threat protection. We open that. And we're gonna turn it back on. You'll see, turn on, turn everything back on. Yes. Okay, manage settings, and we're gonna turn everything back on. Okay, everything's turned back on. Now let's try it again. We're gonna run it and try to load the payload. And you'll say here, now we get this error. We're not able to run because the antivirus, Windows Defense or Windows Defender, is blocking it. It says, hey, it contains potential virus or malware, unwanted software. So make sure to always turn on your antivirus, anti-malware, because it can save you when you accidentally run a bad program.